began to build. That's the polar opposite of the problem with terror. What is the root of, how come British citizens who happen to be Muslim fanatics blew up buses and subways? Because they didn't really think they were British. That identity was irrelevant to them. They thought their differences were all that mattered. And it rendered people subhuman who disagreed with them. What do you want me to talk about?
Yeah.
A fraud? No, it wasn't a fraud, but I'll be glad to talk to you if you'll shut up and let me talk. I'll tell you a couple of stories about fraud. The Bohemian Club? Did you say the Bohemian Club?
Yeah.
That's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
We know you've been to Bilderberg.
Our country even accommodates somebody saying whatever they want to say, right?
We know you've been to the Bilderberg group.
And we get it. But think about it, the British were traumatized by those terrorist incidents because they were citizens. And I've read all these interviews of other British citizens saying, oh God, I don't understand what happened. We lived with them, we worked with them, we went to sporting events with them, we went to dinner on the weekends, we celebrated holidays, our children played together. What happened? They did not feel that they were part of a community.
We know you've been to the Bilderberg group meetings. Why don't you talk about 9/11?
Can you let him talk? Can you let him talk?
It's all right.
Can you let him talk?
Anyway, these people did not come here to hear you speak. And
Yes!
if you don't have any self-control, we can live with it.
The people are waking up. The people are becoming aware 9/11 was an inside job.
Hey, listen. We paid to come listen to this, please.
An inside job?
Yeah, it was an inside job. World Trade Center 7 didn't collapse by itself.
Let me tell you something. One of my wife's strongest supporters is a woman who was burned beyond recognition, who has been through more than a dozen operations to put her life back together. And I know what she went through. And she loves Hillary because she went through it with her every step of the way. It was no inside job. I was with a guy the other day who told me he was a captain in the New York Fire Department, and before 9/11 most of his friends and he were Republicans. But he was appalled that his president and the government denied that he could have gotten sick breathing what they breathed. Remember what they breathed? They breathed benzene, PCBs, asbestos. And he said, your wife was the first person that knew a lot of us were going to get sick and some of us would die because of that. And she started fighting for us, and because of her, some of us who would have died are alive. And those who died, their families can live in greater dignity. I live in New York. I know who did that. I flew back as quick as I could, and I went down to the Victims Identification Center, and I found myself standing next to an Arab fellow who was a full head taller than me. He was about 6'7", with big old tears running down his face. And I said, did you lose anybody? He said, no. I'm an Egyptian Muslim American, and I hate what they did worse than you do. And he said, I'm so afraid my countrymen will never trust me again. We know about that. We know about that. You guys got to be careful. You're going to give Minnesota a bad reputation here. So anyway, this is the problem.
Bill, tell them about the Bilderberg group.
Sure. You want me to take it?
And I
Thank you.
You guys aren't gonna be able to get away with your New World Order, sir. Talk about Bill. You know what New World Order is.
And after 1989, President Bush said, and it was a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
You guys aren't gonna be able to get away with your New World Order, sir. Talk about Bill. You know what New World Order is. No, I got a free mind. He's the one that's been talking about it. No New World Order! Oh, he's the one that's fucking talking about it. Tell him about the Bilderberg Group. Yeah, I know your wife was there last year illegally under the Logan Act. It's true. Hey, you guys like America? Keep it that way.
Now, when you do the video, you only...
Bill, hey, you said you'd come over and talk to us. Come talk to us, Bill. Tell them about the Bilderberg Group.
Bohemian Grove! It was an inside job, and we know it!
New World Order scum.
Oh, come on, guys.
It's true.
It was an inside job, and we know it!
Boo! Why don't you tell them about the connections between you and the Bush family since the early 80s?
Well, you know what the North American Union is? Everything you hear, you should educate yourself.
Do you know what the North American Union is?
Educated.
Then you know what the North American Union is, right?
You know what? Have you heard of the North American Union?
Which is composed of?
It's going to be America, Canada, and Mexico.
Well, take down the borders. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, right.
North America instead of the different countries. That's the best way to unify.
Who needs sovereignty?
Just destroy the United States.
No, it's not destruction.
Yes, it is.
It's enhancement.
If you don't have a country, it's not a sovereign nation.
One Clinton campaigning for another. Tonight, President Clinton came to the Twin Cities stumping for his wife. Here's KARE 11's Scott Goldberg.
We have the next First Gentleman of the United States, President Bill Clinton.
At the State Theater, Bill Clinton played to a packed house.
And this is why I'd be here for her if we weren't married. Number one, we have to restore our standing in the world. We're in trouble in the rest of the world.
More than 2,000 people were in the audience. They paid his wife's campaign between $25 and $100 to be there. And when one person in the crowd claimed 9/11 was an inside job, it was clear this event wasn't about cozying up to big donors.
A fraud? No, it wasn't a fraud, but I'll be glad to talk to you if you'll shut up and let me talk now.
Those with deeper pockets had their moments with the former president. Earlier, there was a private reception for people who gave Hillary as much as $2,300. And that's why the University of Minnesota's Larry Jacobs says Mr. Clinton was in Minnesota, because Mrs. Clinton's campaign is a fundraising behemoth, and donors in other parts of the country are tapped out.
Former President Clinton raised money for his wife Hillary's campaign tonight at the State Theater in Minneapolis. When hecklers interrupted, shouting that the September 11th terror attacks were a fraud, President Clinton confronted them.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
The hecklers were removed from the crowd. Tickets to the State Theater went for between $25 and $100, and tickets for a fundraiser earlier in the night went around $1,000 to $2,300.
I love George Bush.